Hi, I'm Crystal with Azalea's Garden, and for today's video, I'm going to be giving you a step-by-step on how to start seeds. Very simple. You only need water, seeds, seed starting tray, and soil. That's it. Nothing crazy, no grow light system, none of that. So let's go. If you saw my previous video, I showed you how I store and organize over 100 seeds. I've been collecting a lot of these seeds throughout several years, so that's how I have so many, but you don't really need that many to get started. You just need a handful that you are interested in growing, and that's it. Okay, so I'm in the potting section of the garden. Let me show you what I'm gonna be using today. If you saw my other video, I showed you that I got some new seed trays. These are my favorite. They're plastic, super durable, have the little pop-up feature. You can use these time and time again. You're going to need some potting mix. This is new to me. I'll let you know how I feel about it, but I have used regular soil and just picked out anything that's like barky and, you know, anything too thick on the top. You will need this for your seedlings because you want them to be able to germinate properly. Here's my seed collection. I don't think I'll be pulling any of these out, but sometimes I do that last minute. In my previous video, I showed you some of the seeds that I got in, so I will be planting some of those as well as a few other things. I do have pre-made seed tags, so some of these I will reuse, some I will not. If I have some unused ones, then I will write them in with my garden marker. You could just use a Sharpie and popsicle sticks. You don't need this at all. That's how I started. First things first, we're going to pop open our bag. I have this tray here. You can use whatever basin that you have available. I'm gonna do about half of the bag just because it is a small bag, and I'm not gonna do too many seedlings as of right now. So we have water in here, and we're just going to go in a little heavy. And I like to use gloves because I like to protect my fingernails as much as possible. And we're just gonna mix it in. And by doing this, it helps with the seed planting. It just keeps everything nice and moist. That way the seeds don't dislodge or move around when we're actually putting them in their containers and then having to go in there and wet them again. So the soil is basically ready to go. So I learned this from Laura at Garden Answer, and what you want to do to make sure that it's moist enough but not overly moist is by grabbing it and squeezing it as hard as you can and seeing if water drips. So mine drips a little, which I personally don't mind. Drips a little, but it holds its form. That's how you know that it's good to go. It's not sopping wet. You've got to really squeeze it hard for that water to come out. So I would say this is good. So I like to use a tray like this because then I could bring my seedling tray in here and just fill it up. And I left the bottom so that I don't get soil all over the bottom. And then you want to pack them in there nicely, not too hard, just tamped in nice. And then you can fill in the spots that need some more, like in this case here. At this point, you don't want to over tamp anymore. You're done. You're just patting it nicely. If it doesn't fit, we're moving it on to another cell. Okay, there it is. It's nice. And now that I think about it, I think I do need to fill 2 trays. So let me do the other one. This is what you don't want. So I just picked these out. Okay, now that that's done, I'm gonna go through these really quick to see which ones I need to write down and which ones I'm gonna keep. Okay, I've done all my tags. I didn't put the exact name on it just because I don't have multiple pink salvias that I'm planting. So this just keeps it easy for me for now. And if I really want to refer to the exact name, I could just come back to my seed inventory. Some I'm planting directly, probably in another video, so I'll leave that out. And then I already know what kind of bell peppers I have and all that jazz. So let's get started on planting the seeds. I almost forgot, which is probably the most important part of seed starting. You want to check what the requirements are for lighting for your seed germination. You can't just plant them all the exact same way or exact same depth, because they probably won't pop up if you do that. Each seed packet should have some specs about the seeds. For example, the Johnny's Seeds packet will tell you how you can grow it, transplanting. Here it'll show you when you can do it, if it's recommended to transplant, and the depth. So here it's telling me to plant 1 to 2 seeds per cell, so per little square, 1/2 inch deep. So usually I just gauge using my finger, 1/2 inch, and then the temperature that is ideal for growing them. So you want to keep these at about 80-85, no lower than 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's for the cucumbers. For example, seed packets like the ones from Botanical Interest, this will tell you right here a little easier how long it's going to take to emerge, the depth, so 1/4 inch. You could start it indoors, spacing, and then it'll give you some more recommendations on when to start it. So this says 8 to 10 weeks before transplanting it, so before taking it outside and planting it outside, because this is the ideal temperature that it wants to be planted in. And then this, transplanting seedlings outside 2 to 4 weeks after your average last frost date. So you want to look at your location, Google, and see when your average last frost date is for your specific location, and it'll tell you that date. Here in Hawaii, I don't have to worry about that, so I could just go ahead and start my seeds. Okay, now let's get started with that. So I'm starting here and I'm going this way to keep me organized. So I'm only gonna do 2 cosmos. So I'm doing 4 seeds for this one. So for the cosmos, it says to cover the seeds lightly. So that means I'm just gonna press them in. This, hopefully you can see. So just to show you a little better, I'm just gonna do one here and one here. It's easier for me to separate. Press them in, and just ever so slightly cover the top with whatever soil is nearby. And that's it for that.
1 nap later.
Okay, I had to leave and tend to the baby really quickly, but I am back. So I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna do the pink salvia, and then I'll just pump the rest of them out myself. So we're gonna do the pink salvia. I'm gonna do these 2 front cells. So according to the packet, since I'm gonna transplant, it says just to gently press the seeds into the soil, but not to cover it, as the light aids the germination. And I've never planted salvia before. Here's a little rogue seed right there. So because I've never planted it before, I'm gonna do 2 in each cell. 1 right there, 1 here. Oops. Okay, here I have 2, and do the same. 1 here, and 1 right about here. Boom. So once I've done all the seeds, I'll come back and show you what I do with the vermiculite. These are super tiny. These are the Celosia seeds. So you can see they come in this little tiny jar. Okay, so now that we're done with the seeds, I'm going to be adding some vermiculite, and it looks kind of like sandy rock. It just helps with germination and equally keeping the soil nice and wet. The wind is like taking it. Sprinkle it on top, not too heavy. You don't want to like completely just coat it in the vermiculite, but just want to get all the main spots. Now that that's done, I'm going to use my mister. You can just use the misting setting on your hose sprayer or a small little spray bottle. I like this, it's pretty affordable. I got it at Walmart. I actually got this on my last video. If you saw my last video, I took you to a couple garden centers here in Hawaii. Well, not garden centers, but more like Walmart and Lowe's. just to show you the varieties and what it's like plant shopping here. Ooh, oh no, oops, got it wet. It'll be okay. Maybe just move the seeds to the other side of the packet for now. Be careful not to do what I just did, and make sure you're keeping your seeds nice and dry if you're not going to be using them. So because we already moistened our soil, we don't really need to do a full thorough, just wet the top nicely. This one, the only thing about this one, it doesn't have a little lock. I've had some that have little lock notch, and that's really nice. But I do like the pump because after a while, just an actual hand sprayer gets a little tiring if you have many trays. I only have the one right now, so it's fine. I'm gonna keep the tray in this nice, bright, sunny spot and cover it with a dome. Sometimes the trays come with humidity domes. These don't, so I just use these that come with the metal tins from the food cooking section of the grocery store. So I will keep these watered on a daily basis. I will fill the little watering tray to about half, and then I'll give them like 10 minutes just to make sure that the soil has been soaked up, and then I kind of spray on the top just to make sure that there's no water missing anywhere. And I will leave the dome on until you see the seedlings pop up, and you want to see pretty much all of them popping up before you take the dome off. I know this has a little bit of ventilation on the sides. That's fine. It's not going to hurt it in this area. You don't need grow lights, and I stress this a lot because when I started, I didn't have grow lights. In fact, I still do not have grow lights. Even though I was in South Carolina, I just put it up against a very sunny window on one of those TV trays, and I let them do their thing, and they always popped up for me, and I never had any issues. I think I've covered everything for your basic beginner seed starting, but please let me know if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to answer them and help you out. All right, till next time.